You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Welcome to part 2 of the Cape Wrath Trail, where Lee and I travel on foot from Ullapool to Cape Wrath, the most northwesterly point in Scotland. Join us as we make our way gently along the route suggested in the Cicerone Guide, north to the Cape, over a period of 7 days in early May 2008. Well, here we are at the beginning of day 3, and I've just had a lovely refreshing wash in the River Oykel, and very refreshing it was too. We didn't do any more yesterday because sadly once again the weather changed after our piece that we did, and it came down for pretty well the rest of the day. Very steady, persistent rain that just got into everything and made everything soaking wet. So our priority was to find a decent camping spot and set up camp and sort ourselves out and get some food into us, because we were sort of feeling a bit, well, not miserable, but just a bit fed up with the weather, really. So what did we do? Well, we went to Oykel Bridge Hotel and had a beer and a bacon sandwich there, which sort of inspired us to keep going during the rest of the morning. That was a fairly easy walk, and then we walked up Glen Oykel through the forest, which was a pretty monotonous walk, and as I say, combined with the weather, just got a bit boring, really. We finally got through to Loch and Benmore Lodge, and the weather just broke a bit there, and certainly there was a few houses at Benmore Lodge, I presume, estate workers and so on, and a very, very lonely but inspiring place to live, I would think, nestling with the mountains around you and the forest and so on, looking out across Loch but a beautiful spot. We didn't see anybody to speak to, just saw a few ducks running across the road out of our way. And we passed Benmore Lodge and continued further round towards Benmore Forest along to the bridge crossing River Oykel, which, for future reference for people, there's actually a decent camping area just past the confluence. So not heading north but northeast, you come to, as we did, a nice level-ish area surrounded by an arc of the river, which you can hear with me now. So the water's plenty, and with a beautiful positioning for sunset and sunrise, depending on the weather and how lucky you are. And certainly this morning we've been very lucky with the sunrise. The sun has come up in the east and is beaming down onto our damp tents. Once again, it did rain quite heavily during the night, and again, 3 nights now, it's been very, very still nights. Hardly any wind at all, so consequently there's a lot of condensation around inside the tents, inside Lee's Acto and my Shangri-La 3, and we're in the process at the moment of stringing up some lines and drying out all the damp items, just to make sure we set off today with a light as possible bag. Looking around me, it is a magnificent location. It's certainly, if anybody wants to do this particular walk or even just visit this particular spot as a camping spot, it's beautiful. We're sort of an arc of mountains around us. We've got the Black Rock behind us, Sconham Moor, and looking at the River Oykel to the route we'll actually be taking today. There's a big valley going between the high mountains, which have still got snow on the tops there, and the clouds are down at the moment, skimming the top of the mountains. And as anybody would know, being in this situation, glorious sunshine, bit of blue sky, low cloud in places, and low cloud over the top of the mountains there, and it's quite a magical moment, and a great pleasure to be here, really. I don't think gear-wise, or should we talk about the food? Let's talk about the food. I had one of my favourite meals last night, one of Rose's salmon and leek sauces, which make a salmon and leek base up, which when we have it at home, we normally have it with sort of mashed potato over the top, a bit like a shepherd's pie, I suppose. and it's a lovely meal. Anyway, she dehydrated the salmon and leek, and it turned into virtually nothing. It was fantastic as regards a package to carry. And I just got some commercial mashed potato and heated that up. Now, I know I said I brought the Bush Buddy, and I brought a Vargo meth stove as well. Well, I bought a normal bottle of meths, hoping that would last the week, really primarily just for a brew in the morning or for emergency. But I was ideally going to be collecting organic matter, wood and so on as we walked. Well, on the first day I could have done, but I missed it and then it rained. And then when we camped, there was no wood. The second day it just rained all day long, and once again where we camped there was just no chance of it. And so that was yesterday, and there's no trees here. So really, it's one of those things when you're using something like Bush Buddy, you got to really plan ahead and think it through and look at the map. And when you have the opportunity to gather wood, sort of, I guess, half a day before you get to the camping area, you need to get a good couple of fistfuls of I mean, it's only small sticks, but ideally dry small sticks, before you can start cooking. So I made the mistake on both days, so hands up on that front. So I used my meths burner. And that combined with a pot cosy actually worked exceedingly well. What I do is, in this particular case, I boiled up. I put the dried food in about 300 ml of water. I boiled the water up with one load of meths in the cooker. I then put it in the pot cosy for 20 minutes or so, and it sort of really accelerated the reconstitution. And then I fired up the meth stove again, got it boiling again, giving it a good stir. And I guessed just the right amount of meth to get it boiling, and then I added the powdered mashed potato and just kept stirring until it turned into a big mush, really, I suppose. But I tell you what, it was a lovely, tasty one. It was great, and I never thought I'd eat that much, but I'd certainly, obviously, earned it yesterday. I think we did about 21, 22k yesterday, and Lee tells me that the Cape Wrath Trail book that he got the information out of from Cicerone, he's been basically merging the 2 days into one. So we've been doing 2 of their days to 1 of ours. So they're slightly longer than we'd like to do for a gentle walk, as it were, which certainly what Cicerone, the book, seems to cover. But certainly an enjoyable walk. Just a shame that the weather's it meant we've had our head down all the time, which is a sad part of it. The valise smock, the Paramo valise smock, has performed amazingly well. I have to say I've now changed my entire view to point to Paramo, not from any bias, just from lack of experience. So I'm now looking at my 3-layer system, wondering what I can and can't get away with in any sort of long distance trip, and I could certainly consider just using this a base layer and a down jacket, and probably for an entire trip, and getting away with it. What else? The Terrapants, as always, reliable. I've got the cut-offs this time. Yeah, well, okay, I was just thinking that I might paddle in the sea at some stage. They've has been brilliant as ever. With the rock lights, I've been wading across a few streams looking for camping spots, and certainly by the time I set the tent up, they seem to have dried out. So they've been fantastic from that point of view. And I've just had my usual Bunk House pack lights, waterproof trousers as my waterproof trousers of choice, as it were. And they've lasted me for years, and certainly there's nothing else on the market with that long zip on it that makes them so easy to get in and out of when you need to in a hurry when it's starting to rain. Inside the pinnacle that I've been using, I put most of the important items I wanted to keep dry inside X-Bed dry bags. So that's my clothes, my sleeping bag, some of the food, and everything else that really I didn't mind getting wet. I sort of left in its normal packaging, and then I used a rucksack cover. But such was the rain yesterday that the inside of the rucksack cover was soaking. Whether the cover itself is leaking or it just worked its way in, I suspect it's the latter. And the rucksack itself was not, sodden, but it was wet, and certainly key things inside the rucksack were wet as well. Not that it really mattered, because the X-Bed bags did the trick and kept the important things dry, so I was happy on that front. Anyway, the The sun is probably with us for I'd say another half hour or so, looking around, looking up in the sky, and the darker clouds are moving in fairly rapidly. So I'm just going to make the most of drying the various elements that need to be dry. Just airing the sleeping bag at the moment, and my mountain hat that I brought with me, and a few other items which I'd just like to make sure are nice and dry before I pack them away and wipe the tent down, give it a good shake, and get going. Shangri-La 3's working very well. A lot of space in there, but as I say, sadly, the condensation with the weather the way it is means there's condensation inside, obviously, just as much as the Acto. So you've got to be careful you don't hit the side of the tent when you sort of put your top on in the morning or whatever. Otherwise, you get a shower, an unexpected shower to get you going. But of course, that's meant there's a little bit of condensation on the sleeping bag and so on. Hence the reason we're airing it now. Anyway, today, what have we got? Well, today Lee tells me is a fairly short day. We're heading up River Oykel. There seems to be a Land Rover track that goes half the way up there. I suspect there'll be a track that goes all the way to the end. Then we'll skirt round the end and over through a gully. Looks like it's going to have a lot of stones on there. Could look like a baby Larry Garou, really, before we drop down into Inchnadamph. Great names up here, aren't they? Inchnadamph, where we're booked into a hostel. So tonight will be a good shower. Not that I need one, of course, because I've already had a wash in the river. Lee, on the other hand, does need a damn good scrubbing down with a stiff brush at arm's length. So we hope to be enjoying some company there, having a chat to the hostel runner or manager or owner or whatever he is, and there's no doubt a pub there as well. So all being well, we'll have a beer or two and an enjoyable evening. But only about 15k today, so a sort of fairly short day. And once we get up onto the ridge, fairly easy going, I guess, just straight down the other side down Glen Doe. That's about it from me. So I'm signing off this morning. As I say, things are looking fairly positive, but of course it all changes, as you heard so far. And all being well, we'll have another chat as we go through the day if it's pleasant enough. Otherwise, we'll pick up once we're down in Inchnadamph, and we've scrubbed up and feeling revitalised, ready for an evening socialising. Well, we're what time is it now? It's 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, and we've been going. How long have we been going? About an hour?
About an hour, yeah.
And we're walking up towards the gully at the top of the River Oykel, and I think we've been blessed by the gods. It's been like the morning of the first day in Ullapool. It's a cracking day, isn't it?
Yeah, lovely blue skies and quite hot sunshine. Yeah.
Very pleasant. So we're down to base layers and enjoying the view, which is changed, and we've just been discussing this, trying to work out how to describe to people what the vista's like, because it is different to the Cairngorms and definitely obviously the lowlands of Scotland, but certainly the normal routes we've perhaps taken through on the challenge, on the TGO challenge, which goes across Scotland, middle of Scotland. But what sort of words would you use to describe it, Lee?
It's really wide open, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a bit sort of Canadian feel to it, really.
It's definitely got an Alpen feel to it. The valley that we're walking up, or sort of walking up the side at the moment, is very open. There's the River Oykel down the bottom there is weaving its way along the plains. There's rocks ahead of us either side of the valley as it comes to the top of the valley there. It's a magnificent spot, but you definitely feel like you'd be on your own if anything happened out here.
Oh, without doubt. You're a little walk from any civilization. I do see some nice camping spots over there, Bob, which we've been lacking.
Yes, yeah, well, that's the other thing. I mean, it looks on the map like there'll be plenty of camping spots, but actually somewhere where there's decent, dry, short grass that you can pitch up on have been few and far between, but there's certainly plenty along here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can just see a nice green bit there, but far too early to be thinking about pitching tent.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Well, we've got a bit of a walk to go over the gully there down to Inchnadamph.
Inchnadamph, yeah.
Inchnadamph, and we're looking forward to having an early stop this afternoon and having a rest and washing our gear. You're changing your footwear. I know you've had a problem with one of your toes there with your leather boots, but you've been agonising whether the boots were the best move or your Terox or Rock Lights.
Yes, yeah, I didn't know whether to bring these Mindall Borneo boots that have always been an excellent fit, and I've done hundreds of miles in Borneos, but my big toes started to hurt in these. I rang home and had my Terox sent up to Inchnadamph, and I should swap over tomorrow and see how that goes.
Yeah, I think that's going to be quite interesting, changing from one to the other. I know you're a fan of the Terox, but you chose that the leather boots might be better for the trip, and it's definitely been wet underfoot, and certainly I'm standing here and with wet feet with my Rock Lights, but I mean it's not unpleasant. What has worked out well is the Innovate Grit Gaiters. They're doing a cracking job, just ideal for the terrain, and certainly very lightweight as well as practical from that point of view. So just going through the boggy bits, but my feet are warm. It's not unpleasant. Just damp occasionally when we hit the muddy bits. But it's a moment. I think this is the time we sort of stop for a moment and take a few pictures and just reflect that we probably won't be coming this way again. And it's a beautiful vista. So anybody thinking of doing this route in any shape or form, you won't be disappointed. You certainly won't be disappointed. Unlike the previous two, this stage is quite majestic by our tastes. It is one of the best. It leaves forests and fishing, but still follows the River Oykel almost to its source at a lochen in a corrie under Ben More Ascent, and eventually becomes the longest riverside journey of the whole trek, 22 kilometres from Oykel Bridge to Conneville. Ben More Lodge, overlooking Loch Alsh, is obviously well kept and regularly used, and being near a large forest has an air of seclusion. On leaving the forest area, some 2 kilometres north of the lodge, the route enters the Ben More Ascent Massif, but remains low beside the Oykel. As you progress, enjoy the presence of high mountains to left and right. At the head of the glen, the river tumbles steeply from its source away to the northeast. Continue northwards beside a tributary, ascending steeply in the shadow of Conneville. The Bealach is really a narrow gorge, with the towering southwest slopes of Conneville rising high to your right. To your left, the slopes are steep but not so lofty as they rise to Braebag Tarsin. In the English Lake District, this would be known as Windy Gap. When we were there, it was a calm, sunny day, but it must be a terrible place in gale conditions. Before entering the gorge, look back southwards down Glen Oykel. After passing through the gorge, a vast panorama opens up northwest over Glen Dhu. Inchnadamph is hidden. Beyond lies Quinag, 15 kilometres away. The ascent to the gorge from Glen Oykel is rough but firm on the ground. However, lower as you descend to Glen Dhu, the ground is peaty and wet, hence slow. Keeping high as long as possible will minimise the amount of peat to be traversed. The final descent to Inchnadamph, meaning Stag's Meadow, is easy, giving a pleasant finale to the stage. Some of the cottages in this crofting community at the head of Loch Ascent look as if they were built from white marble, and indeed they are, for marble is only a granular form of limestone. Well, it's 3:20 now on day 3, and we're just doing the last stretch down to Inchnadamph village and the hostel down there. And I definitely wanted to stop for 5 minutes and just explain really what a pleasure it's been today. It's been a wonderful walk up the river Oykel. Thank you very much. Up the River Oykel to the gully there, and then we're at the bottom of Glen Dhu, and it's been terrific. The weather has been on our side, but the actual terrain has just been wonderful, hasn't it?
Absolutely fantastic, the weather and the scenery, and as you said earlier, a bit alpine sort of feel to it, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been following a skylark down Glendu. We're sitting amongst primroses and early spring flowers on the side of the gully there. It's quite a steep gully, to say the least. It'd be a fantastic walk any time of the year, but if you do come up here and you're nervous about heights, the drop-off can be quite scary at times, particularly near the top. But what a walk! What a really enjoyable walk. The climb up to the gully itself was tough going. There's no sort of distinct path. The path sort of comes to an end at the end of where the waterfalls are on the River Oykel, and there's a couple of bridges marked at the top of them, which we didn't make it up to the bridge. We decided to sort of take a shortcut, which meant climbing down and then back up again. It didn't take us long to get to the gully, did it?
No, not at all really. It was just took it in stages, took a time, and we got there really quite easily.
Yeah. I mean, and the water coming down from the loch was absolutely crystal clear, wasn't it?
If we could bottle that, we'd make a fortune. Honestly.
Yeah. So we're probably about 20 minutes away, I guess, from the hostel now, and I just thought I'd stop and just reflect. The clouds seem to be just following us in now, but certainly as regards the last couple of days when it's been pretty tough going and pretty demoralising with the continual rain, this is the other side of the coin, and this is what walking in Scotland can actually be about, and it's absolutely fantastic. So hopefully we'll pick up a bit later on or tomorrow morning and fill you in for the rest of the with the rest of the evening's activities. Well, it's the start of day 4, and we made it down yesterday to the hostel at Inchnadamph, which was really good actually. It was a charming hostel run by 4 ladies, Margaret, Sally, Christine and another lady I didn't catch the name of. Spotlessly clean, very welcoming, very affordable, great kitchen, and some good company. There was some various accents, various nationalities there. There were Israeli guy we shared a room with. I heard some Dutch and some English people, obviously all travelling through the area for different reasons. But it's also very popular with Scots fishermen, because there's the loch next to it, and the hostel has fishing rights, so they've got a couple of cottages as well, and thankfully the Glas Bheinn fishermen were habiting those, except when they came into the hostel itself for food and whatever. And a great fun bunch. Couldn't understand a word they were saying, and incredibly loud, but otherwise the hostel was absolutely fantastic, so thoroughly recommended for people who want to stay there. What are your views on the hostel, Lee?
Beautiful place, extremely clean and welcoming. I'm really impressed with it, with the price, and breakfast thrown in as well. Yeah, we had plenty of cereal and toast and coffee
and kicked us off this morning in fine style. So we sort of headed inland now, northeast, on the way to where are we going to? Kaiskew we're heading for, and we've just climbed from 80 metres up to about 430 metres, and we're overlooking the first of the series of lochans, which you'll see on the map if you're using that for reference. The wind's is a cool westerly breeze, not too cold, and the weather is sort of mild actually. And I think in these particular conditions, the Paramo actually is too warm, and I can see now why people also carry a wind shirt. So I've actually taken the Paramo off and put the wind shirt on. I've just got my temperature right, and I've taken the ultimate plunge now and put to one side my traditional 3-layer system, my jacket and fleece, which is now left at the hostel, which we'll pick up on the way back, hopefully when the bus stops. And Lee's made the immense leap from his 3.5 ton leather boots to Terox, which he had sent up, and we'll have a chat with him towards the end of the day to see exactly how he feels the difference. But I'm hardly keeping up with him at the moment. He's charging off like a lightweight man with a vengeance.
Oh yeah, I'm floating. Absolutely floating. So far so good. As Bob said, we'll see at the end of the day if they prove to be comfortable as my old boots.
Yeah, so you picked your boots up this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, I picked them up and they was wet, and they weighed an absolute ton, honestly. So I think I've made the right decision so far.
Excellent. Well, yeah, weather is questionable really for the next few days, but it has been already, and we've had some good weather and some horrible weather, so really we'll just take it as it comes. The cloud level is down fairly low. There's lots of insects about on the little lochans there, lots of pond skaters, seen a few lizards and frogs. So it's obviously that time of year, but it's still fairly damp underfoot, but not too unpleasant. The path is a sort of a semi-gravelled path, so my feet aren't wet yet, and I know Lee's aren't, so we will continue the rest of the day. Now, we've got another climb, I think. Where are we? We're about 4:30 now, and then we're going up to about 756, 600 metres through a small pass at the end of this ridge, which is sort of gravel-topped mountains at the moment, and then we'll go through that pass, and then we start to drop down the other side to some well-known waterfalls whose name I won't begin to pronounce, but hopefully I'll get some good pictures there before continuing our descent down to the village, where no doubt we'll get some refreshment and try and find a place to camp. But if we get a chance during the rest of the day, or we stop by the waterfall, I'll switch the recorder back on and fill you in with the rest of the day. But it's been very hard to try and describe this walk. It's certainly, you feel definitely much more remote than you do with the Cairngorms and the mid Scots range. The people are very welcoming, as all Scots people generally are, and the hostels and campsites have been absolutely fantastic. But you certainly, there are long stages between getting provisions, aren't there?
Yeah, certainly. There's very few villages or anything on this walk. We probably only half a dozen really, and no shops, and also a lack of deer, I've noticed probably.
Yeah.
I've seen hardly any deer.
No, the wildlife's been down. So we saw our first rabbits yesterday coming down to the lodge, didn't we?
Yeah.
But apart from that, we haven't really seen much in the wildlife at all. And of course, we've loaded up with 4 days worth of food now, 4 or 5 days worth of food, which is added or doubled the rucksack weight. So we're just taking it steady today, but hopefully we've got some strong legs on us now. We'll carry on. But yeah, very rewarding walk from many aspects. Anyway, we'll call it a day at the moment, and we'll pick up a bit later on. If you've ever travelled between Inchnadamph and Carlskew on the A837 and A894 and looked eastward from time to time, you may remember the vast, uninterrupted southwest face of the Glas Bheinn Massif. This uniform wall belies the rugged landscape beyond, through which our trek passes. The first half of this stage covers the last of the relatively high, craggy country, giving splendid vistas east and north. The region to the west, including Quinag, is hidden behind Glas Bheinn, until the second half of the stage, when Quinag becomes the dominant feature. The climb out of Inchnadamph is quite steep, rising from 50 metres to almost 400 metres in less than 3 kilometres. The path is defined, albeit rough. The route then becomes tortuous, convoluted and dotted with lochans, and combines to make it quite magical. A small diversion of about 1.5 kilometres will afford you a view of the highest waterfall in the British Isles. It is well worth the time and effort. Cúl Alin is 4 times the height of Niagara. The 198-metre fall descends a sheer cliff of the Lighter Dhu in 2 leaps into the dark glen which heads Loch Beg, a continuation of Loch Glencoe. The second half of this stage is a road walk from Loch Nagamich to Carlskew. Carlskew is no longer on the main thoroughfare, but is quaint and interesting. There is a hotel, a B&B, a post office, accommodation, but no shop. Lee and I have just been saying that the vista on this walk is magnificent, really, from start to where we've got to at the moment. Obviously, we're sort of only 2/3 of the way through. If you do the full, complete Cape Wrath Trail, is just stunning in places. And we've just come through that gully we were describing on this walk. And just to let people know, what's the grid reference? Grid reference is 265, 264. Or a bit less, 262, and forgive me, I'm not going to try and pronounce the names, but it doesn't matter. We just feel like we're in a Colin Pryor picture. The vista is absolutely stunning. The raw power of of the mountains, the rock precipices. There's lochans at all different levels. Obviously the weather helps. It's a fairly sunny day and lots of cloud, and as you can probably hear, some wind. But it is absolutely stunning, and I really feel that I'm incapable of finding the words to describe it. What are your thoughts, Lee?
Yeah, it's just I've never seen anything like it in Scotland. All the years I've been coming up, it's just unbelievable. It just reminds me a little of the Grand Canyon, possibly. That's my thoughts on it, really.
Just coming through this gully is a bit of a mini Larry Garou, really. Lots of stone to be careful of, and there is actually a path which you don't find until you get to the end of it, as you do. And the paths aren't very well defined as some of the well-known tracks in the Cairngorms and the monoliths are. But this has to be one of the most rewarding walks I think I've ever undertaken, to just be faced with this. It's like the best of New Zealand spanning out in front of you. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I think if you could bottle it, you'd just make a fortune. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. Awe-inspiring.
So if anybody's thinking of doing the walk and they do like their vistas and do like their photography, then do mark this spot with a very large cross, because you won't be disappointed with the view from here. It's particularly coming the way that we're going, heading north. It is unbelievable. It's just words fail me. So I hope it doesn't feel inadequate to try and describe it like that, but I just wanted to stop for a couple of minutes and just say just how impressive it is. We've got our sea, the sea over to our far left. What do I look? I'm looking towards Glencool, which is down in one of the valleys there, but it's just the scattering of the mountains and the impressiveness, the strength of the range. It just hits you, just powerful.
Thanks for joining us on this part of the trip. Excerpts were read from the Cicerone Guide North to the Cape, which is available from cicerone.co.uk. Join us next time as we move closer to our goal, walking through some of the most spectacular and remote scenery in the UK on the Cape Wrath Trail.
This independent programme is produced and hosted by theoutdoorstation.co.uk.